Hi, I'm Chelsea Schilling with WND.com. We're here today, March 27th, at the premiere of Ride the Thunder. It's the new film of the same name as the WND book, Ride the Thunder, and this is executive producer Richard Botkin. And we're in Westminster, California. Richard, please tell me, what was your inspiration for making this film?
Well, we just want to tell the truth. The truth has been absent about the Vietnam War since the Vietnam War. And this is our effort to restore truth and bring a little honor to the men, the American and South Vietnamese men who served, most of them, 99.9% of them, honorably.
Why is it that Americans really don't have a solid understanding of the ending of the Vietnam War? What are we missing?
Well, it's been my limited experience, but I think extensive. Americans don't read, Chelsea. They simply don't read. When you see those things on Fox News where that young lad goes out and asks who the first president was, and no one knows that, when you have a situation where Americans don't know their history, what's going to be left are not the great books. There's plenty of good books about the Vietnam War, but what we have is the film record. The film record of the Vietnam War is what will determine history 10, 20, 50 years from now when all the Vietnam veterans are gone. And unfortunately, the film record right now are films like Apocalypse Now, Deer Hunter, Platoon. Great entertainment, but fantasy and fiction. Those films portray our troops as victims, as dupes, it marginalizes them, shows them very unfavorably, leadership unfavorably, and it shows our Vietnamese allies even worse. So our film is an effort to begin to turn the tide against that so that in the future, people will realize that America, number one, was right to fight in Vietnam to stop communism, and that our South Vietnamese allies were worthy of our sacrifice and that they fought well also. The end came when the United States Congress simply cut funding, and that was really, if you want it in one paragraph or one sentence, that's it. Congress undermined the Vietnamese, and that was it.
Right. Now, you say that this is a story of courage and sacrifice, but it's also a story of betrayal. That is in the subtitle. Could you elaborate on that?
Well, the betrayal is basically that Congress cut funding for the Vietnamese. This story is about a couple of American Marines and a couple of South Vietnamese together. It's a story of their brotherhood and friendship and how they persevered through some very tough times. Really, the main character is my Vietnamese gentleman, Le Ba Binh, who fought the communists for 13 years, from 1962 to 1975, continuously. I mean, Americans, when they went to Vietnam, Chelsea, if they were a Marine, they went 13 months for one tour, and if they're in the Army, 12 months. Some men went 2 or 3 times, but very few. The Vietnamese generally had one tour that ended with death or dismemberment. So they fought forever. My main character, Binh, fought forever. 13 years, like I said, wounded 9 times. At the end of the war, the communists put him in prison. They call it euphemistically re-education camp for almost 11 years. He comes to the U.S. because he'll never get ahead in Vietnam. He comes to the U.S. with nothing, prospers. That's the Vietnamese story in America. Suffering, hardship, come to America, work hard, succeed. It's a great story.
Well, can you talk about one of the biggest climaxes of the film, the Dong Ha Bridge that was blown? I don't want to give too much away, but we had how many? 700 men going up against 20,000 North Vietnamese Army soldiers?
Correct. Now, in the book, I spent a lot of time developing that story. In the film, keep in mind, this is an independent film. I didn't have unlimited funds to do that. I did not blow up a bridge in the story. We talk about it. We play around it. That was a big deal. My main American, John Ripley, on Easter Sunday, 1972, on his own, blew up a bridge that stopped the enemy offensive, dulled it enough that it bought time for a rapidly collapsing South Vietnamese and American operation to gain some momentum and begin a counteroffensive. Ripley's actions were significant, but we do not spend a lot of time at the bridge in this film, unfortunately. But really, the story centers more on Binh through the continuum of his life, and then at the end, it really is a way for the Vietnamese to thank America, because for those people who don't know Vietnamese in your listening audience, I mean, I would encourage them to find some. They love America more than most because they've paid such a price for their freedom.
Well, let's talk about that. At the fall of Saigon, we had boat people coming over to the U.S., and we lost a 250,000 at sea, and they went through some tragic things. Could you tell us about that?
Well, we don't have exact numbers because no one keeps those exact numbers, but estimates, I think fair estimates of those who perished at sea are at about 250,000. There are stories, I mean, legions of stories of rape that the people on boats endured to escape. I mean, you've got to, no one's breaking in. No one dies breaking into communist countries. They all die breaking out. And these people broke out. They were the risk takers, and those are the people that came to the United States. We got the best of the best. The risk takers came here, and that's why they've done so well.
Right, and you went to Vietnam 7 times to research this, toured some of the battlefields, went to Saigon. Wow, that's a lot of research, and it took a number of years from what I'm told. Is that correct?
This project's been ongoing for about 12 years, but I'll tell you, Chelsea, it's joy. It's a joy. I've met so many wonderful American Marines and their families, and the Vietnamese community has embraced us magnificently. So it was a long time, but it was a complete joy for me.
Right. Final question, what was the most significant lesson you learned in the making of this film and in the writing of the book?
America is made and kept free by a small percentage of men and women who are willing to risk it all. And we should celebrate those people. And unfortunately, we don't. We celebrate the wrong people all the time. But these are people who need to be celebrated. And it is. Joy is the word that describes being around warriors, people that let it all hang out for the right thing. These are committed people. I love these people.
Thank you, Richard Botkin. I highly suggest that you check out the book. It's an excellent book. And come see the film if you get the opportunity to do that.